Awesome. Well, I am definitely excited for this conversation.
Me too.
We'll probably give it until around maybe 2 minutes. Let whoever's entering the room here enter, and then we'll get started and chat through some of today's topics.
Great.
Cool.
Hopefully my dog's quiet.
We'll that is always the consideration that we have to take. I have one dog that we're traveling with, and he's generally good, but if he hears something, I mean, just call off all your meetings, call it a day.
Yeah, that's exactly how our dog is. She's small, but if she hears something in the hallway, she goes for it, and
it's the smaller the louder.
Yeah, I know, the bark is piercing, so
yeah,
it's very
absolutely.
alarming.
Well, I have my other dog. We migrate her south with the birds for the winter, so she's at the in-laws' house in Florida. She can't do the winter. She's an Italian Greyhound.
Oh, wow. So those are pretty thin, right? Those are very.
Yeah, you can see through them.
Oh, wow. Oh my God. How old is she?
She has to be 6 now, I want to say.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, well, the dog just got removed.
Dog is gone. Perfect.
We'll see how long she stays in the other room. I don't know.
Oh, well. Yeah. Well, let's get started. If anyone else comes into the rooms, awesome. But either way, let's go through some of our conversation here today. Elise Schmitt, thank you so much and I pronounced your name correctly, right?
You did, yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So Elise Schmitt, really glad to have you on another Visualfizz growth series. For anyone who hasn't been to a Visualfizz growth series, we talk through growth, marketing, entrepreneurship, sales, growing your business, working with other companies to grow, and really just some of the tactics and opportunities that kind of come with it. COVID has been a hot topic that we've discussed. Luxury has been something we've been chatting around, sales, and then building personal brands as well as kind of overarching brands as well. So I'm really excited to have Elise Schmitt with us, who is the Director of Marketing at HMR Designs. And today's topic is discovering the new luxury lifestyle and evolving with the new wave of luxury consumers, which is pretty exciting because it's changed so drastically from your kind of what the definition of luxury was maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it up to you, Elise, to kind of give us a really high level introduction of who you are, HMR, and anything else that you'd kind of like to start with until we start asking some questions.
Sure, yeah. Well, I've been in the marketing industry for about 15 years now. I started working at Modern Luxury Media, which is a luxury publisher, publishing locally here in Chicago, CS Magazine, Modern Luxury Weddings, CS Interiors, and the Men's Book. And since then, I've bounced around quite a bit, but now I'm here at HMR Designs for a little over 2 years, 2.5 years. And we do event design, production, decor, floral, lighting, you name it, for luxury weddings, social events, galas, even mitzvahs, private and social. And we service clients internationally, all across the country here. And we've done some things in Europe, in Ireland, even Italy. So all over the place.
That's great. That's exciting. And, the luxury spaces, I mean, it's kind of ever evolving, and the event space is just one piece of it, which is very interesting. And I'm excited to talk through that a little bit more. So to start our events, for anyone who hasn't seen our growth series events before, either in person or now on the web due to COVID, essentially what we'd like to do is talk through essentially your life, right? We want to talk through how you got to where you are today and the steps you took, or if there's that aha moment. So we'd love to hear a little bit more around you. What led you to this path that you're on today?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just fell into it after I finished college in Wisconsin. I walked away with an English degree, and I had lined up an internship, like I said, at Modern Luxury Media, who publishes actually nationally, but regional magazines in larger cities. And working at that magazine kind of introduced me to the luxury market and the world, not just because we were producing a magazine intended to hit the luxury market, but all of our advertisers, meaning our clients and the people that I worked with on a daily basis, were representing different brands within the luxury market, whether it's jewelry or clothing, local high-end boutiques, whatever it is. And that kind of, like I said, introduced me to it. I didn't really know much about it other than I guess what the average consumer would see, you know, in a print ad. When it came to larger brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and those kind of things. So that, I mean, I was there for 5 years. So that kind of gave me a really well-rounded, you know, I guess education into the luxury market, because I got to see how different brands worked and how they really targeted their market. And, you know, that was one of my favorite jobs. I loved it so much. The only reason I left is because I received a different job offer, kind of focusing more on luxury interiors. But yeah, I mean, that, looking back on it, really shaped my career. And it's funny now, because when I started there and, you know, hopped through a few different roles throughout my career and now ended up HMR Designs, where that is one of the clients that Modern Luxury worked with. So it really came full circle for me. And it kind of, you know, I came into HMR knowing a lot of the people that we currently work with now and how those brands worked. And it was great. I mean, I'm happier now in this role than I've been pretty much anywhere else. So.
That's great. Yeah. And, you know, we did chat with individuals from Modern Luxury, Samantha. So that was really great. You know, the luxury space has been a space that we've been kind of exploring because of the evolution that we've seen through luxury. You know, it's a lot more experiential than, you know, product driven in some circumstances, you know, as we can see the evolution of it. And so was luxury something that initially, you know, let's say during your, I guess when you fell into it, was that something that was part of your, you know, you said you were an English major. So was it something, something that you knew, or is it really just something that you just liked?
Kind of, honestly, I was probably, you know, a 19-year-old college student that saw Sex in the City and was like, I want to write for Vogue or, you know, whatever it is. And, like so many girls at that age. And I think when I went after my English degree, I was thinking, oh, I want to be a writer and kind of have that life. I mean, it's so silly to think about now. It's laughable. But yeah, I mean, I really just didn't have an idea of what the luxury market really was. And I wasn't, you know, I certainly grew up in a nice household in a Chicago suburb. But my parents, you know, as successful as they are, they were not the type of people, you know, to spoil us in luxuries. Even if we could afford something like that, that's not really how I grew up. My dad's from Germany. He's an entrepreneur. So, and he certainly didn't grow up the way I did. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of just sparked my interest when pop culture around it. You know, you look back like 20 years and that's kind of the birth of social media. And it's embarrassing to admit now, but you know, you see something when you're young and you're like, oh, I want that lifestyle. You know, I want it. So, you know, I did the best thing that I could. It's just, I found if I couldn't be the one dripping in Gucci, I'm like, well, I'll be the one working with it. Which
the second best.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds really silly now to say, but yeah, I mean, and you know, like I said, it's just kind of my education with the luxury market just naturally evolved because there was an interest in it. And I think that goes along with any industry that, you know, if you want to find success in, if there's a genuine interest in it, you're probably going to succeed more than the person who doesn't have any interest in what they're representing.
No, absolutely. And you brought up a good point of how there, I think with social media becoming what it is, and this ideal lifestyle mentality, especially through Instagram, right? Because in my space 20 years ago, I think people are just happy to be online. But especially with the birth of MySpace, it's almost as if the previous ideology of content creation has really taken a step in any direction, depending on your opinion on it, right? But it's taken a much more visual approach. And so luxury now does become a lot more visual in terms of, you know, though you're dripping in Gucci, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Where are you doing it, right? Are you at the like old school steakhouse, or are you now at, you know, beaches of some country? And so that's interesting too, that you kind of bring that up. And you know, I think with the event space where HMR Designs is focused, you guys are kind of bringing that, you know, designer outlook on a level which is in person. You know, it's something that is physical. And so maybe if you want to talk through a little bit around HMR Designs, as well as what your role in that company is.
Yeah. So, when I joined, there really wasn't a director of marketing position. In fact, they never really had anyone doing their marketing. They have been around for 40 years and evolved throughout the decades into the enormous company that it is now, servicing these luxury clientele. When I came on, it was a mixture of, hey, we need someone to do a social media strategy and deal with our print ads and, come up with creative promos and things like that. And again, because my background was marketing, and it's like, well, so that's a director of marketing. And they were very gracious, and they worked with me to evolve the role that I currently have. So when I came on, they certainly were not hurting. We have a steady stream of clients and things like that. But for me, it's about growing that client. And in my eyes, I think it's not just the current clients you have or the specific people that can afford our services. It's about broadening that market reach into aspirational luxury consumers, meaning people who may not necessarily be able to afford our services at the moment, but building that fan base is something that's so important, especially now with social media, as we've seen it grown into the monster that it is. Building this base that is a fan that, can't afford us now, but maybe in 5 years they can. I look at myself when I was, if I wanted a designer shoe or something that I couldn't afford, I'd save up for it because that's something I wanted. I mean, that's just what you do. So in my mind, it's like, all right, well, the fan base that you have on social media is currency. And if people can't afford our services now, we need to figure out a way to kind of keep them engaged online so they keep up with our brand. So when they can't afford us, that will translate into money. And I've done that through the biggest social media forum there is for us, Instagram. Our services are obviously very visual as we do event design, we create experiences. And we've quadrupled it. I think when I joined, we were at around 10 or 11K. We're currently near 54K. So, and I've been doing social media for about 2 years, I want to say. And that to us has translated into dollars. So that's something that was really, really important. And I think we're going to talk about COVID later, but when we do, I'll touch base on the things that we've pivoted to further grow our audience. But yeah, it's really just about presenting a clean, beautiful brand, defining that voice, and enlarging your target market base.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point, because this is something that I'm a big believer in, is the fact that when you're kind of, in our eyes, really because of the difference in industry, when you're the quote unquote educator of the individuals, they generally go back to the people that, brought them to where they are, right? And I think in your eyes, that's a really good point, is you have your current clientele, and because you're coming in and kind of new blood in the company, your thought point is, how do I worry about not maybe right this moment, because we seem to be on a steady growth trajectory, but how do we continue that through the course of the next 5 to 10 years? So these individuals who you can almost predict their trajectory, whether it's financial through their own personal finances, through, let's say, weddings and things like that, or through events, for example, entrepreneurs with a growing business, or event-driven companies, something like that. How do you get there? So that's my next question is, it's all about relationships. I think that has been the component of every single growth series that we've ever had. How do you build those relationships early on with those individuals who are probably not looking for your services, and no offense to you, but they're probably not interested in those services at that moment? How do you get them interested, knowing that they just don't have a budget yet?
Yeah, well, so I guess that kind of taps into what we pivoted to when COVID hit, which is luxury floral design. It's an e-commerce page we put up on our website, and we're building it out, but essentially HMR Designs launched something called Maison HMR. And people can go to our website and buy luxury florals, whether it's a do-it-yourself peony box, meaning we'll ship you a beautiful box filled with 10 stem of peonies that you cut and trim and arrange yourself, or a designer arrangement that's $300, $200, whatever it is. The idea is to tap into those people that may not need us for their wedding, may not need us for, a private birthday party, but we're still able to deliver something that is tangible to them and affordable and beautiful. It's luxury, and they'll have that HMR brand in their home for 2 weeks at a time or whatever it is. And we really want to expand our reach that way, because especially now, who doesn't love flowers, a little sunshine in the home, and that's something that we're experts in. You know, our entire company is rooted in floral designs, and that is, we have, I think, the best team in Chicago. I'm of course biased, but and there, that's something that's like, all right, you know, maybe you're touching base with a 30-year-old woman who loves florals. She comes across our website. She's able to order a beautiful arrangement for a friend or whatever. And she likes the results. She keeps doing it. And then, oh, hey, when her wedding day comes, maybe she'll remember us. So that's kind of one way we've been able to do that. And you know, of course, there is the other way where we have an incredible team of sales designers that are able to build relationships, you know, through partner vendors and their own social interactions and networking events whenever they come back. So, you know, I'm not alone in my marketing efforts. You know, there is, of course, our amazing team that is able to really connect with people. And yeah, I mean, so far, so good.
That's great. Yeah. And, you know, so COVID exists in our day-to-day lives. We can't stop hearing about it. And I think right now, something that is very popular is, and kind of what you mentioned, is like these intimate events. You know, you can't have more than a few people at your home or a given area at any given time. And it sounds like these floral arrangements and other smaller things, which are affordable, but obviously still premium. That's kind of the route that you're taking. And it seems like a lot of other companies are doing something similar, like the to-go cocktails, you know, something where at least you could start driving revenue and still have a little bit of playfulness, because, you know, I think a lot of us are going crazy otherwise.
Yeah, you want to bring the experience home. And another thing too, you know, I don't mean to jump in, but something I thought of, you know, COVID has really driven us to get incredibly creative, as I'm sure many other industries are in the same boat. But it's really helped push me to think outside of the box and partner with people I never would have thought to partner with. You know, for example, we're working with Let Us Entertain You restaurants, which, you know, we've done things in their venues when we have a client that wants to rent it out. But for Thanksgiving right now, RPM Steak and Summer House Santa Monica, two larger restaurants in Chicago, they are offering Thanksgiving meals. And I've worked with them to be like, hey, if you want to have a add-on of our Thanksgiving centerpiece for anywhere from $65 to $125 to $200, consumers can do that. So people can just order their Thanksgiving dinner and a centerpiece, and boom, done. And so it's just an interesting way, you know, to tap into a different market that may not have thought about us or know about us. And I mean, I think that's something that if you can find a silver lining, it's that new partnerships. Yeah,
I agree. And I think a lot more companies are more receptive to new ideas. And we found that too, is that, you know, we're getting outreach from companies that may have looked elsewhere to assist them on things like new pop-up events or just collaborations and things like that. I know in our previous conversation, we chatted with Kyle Hodges from Dark Matter Coffee, and he talked about, you know, they're making chocolate, right? And they're selling some of their, which is exciting. And they're selling like gear that they never would have sold, but it's like special edition and really unique. And, you know, so every company is kind of coming up with new ideas to be creative. And I think it's a kind of like a blessing in disguise, which allows other larger companies and corporations to kind of bring down that level of growth and, you know, nothing's ever going to go wrong, and start working with, you know, companies like HMR and Visualfizz and so many others to start collaborating and coming up with new ideas. And the Thanksgiving idea is great because I think people they need something, and not spending it with family in a big, you know, household full of people and grandparents and stuff. It puts a damper on people's, I think, emotions and their well-being. So I think you guys are bringing some light into people's lives that way.
We hope, because we're doing the same thing for holidays too. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're hoping to kind of keep going with that same model and expand farther into restaurants and, you know, just kind of get more of our product into people's hands and homes, and hopefully they'll, you know, become connected to our brand and help us kind of grow into next year as we, fingers crossed, get a vaccine and kind of, you know.
I know.
we'll see.
I know. I'm going to take a second here just to let the audience know if you guys do have any questions or anything that you'd like to ask. We do have a Q&A at the 45-minute mark. So please do feel free to send the questions over either in the live chat or to Visualfizz, who you can find on the chat on the side. And all the questions will be presented to myself, and I'll ask those. So please do have those, and I'll ask in about 20 minutes. My next question is about the growth I guess, techniques that you're taking on, right? Because the luxury consumer is not always the easiest one to get a hold of. Generally speaking, they're either busy, they're being hounded. A lot of people want that basically small chunk of pie. How have you been successful, either you and your team, just HMR as a whole or yourself, how have you been successful in getting their attention and also retaining it for, a long period of time until that moment when they actually need an event or want to have something hosted or co-hosted by you guys?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and this may be a kind of a simple, boring answer, but the most straightforward way to get their attention, Instagram, it's getting our visuals in front of their face. We've done pop-ups, floral shops and things like that. But ultimately, I feel like social media now more than ever is so, so important, especially because it's evolving like crazy. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people here have seen the new layout for Instagram. It's kind of slowly moving into a marketplace territory. I don't know if you're familiar with what they've done, but so I think, keeping their attention is strategically posting on Instagram, coming up with a great plan. You don't want to oversaturate your market where you're posting 3 times a day. It's too much. People are going to unfollow you. You don't want to post once a week. That's not enough. You want your work, your designs to be captivating and in their face. And you have to be really careful with what you choose. And I think, when we're laying out our plan for social media for the month, it's making sure you do choose the right imagery. And, there's also the help of, if you want to do a paid post and things like that to keep it going. But to me, I do think that is one of the biggest things to kind of tap into that luxury market, because prior to Instagram and social media, all the luxury market was really, really targeted through print ads. I mean, I don't remember ever seeing a luxury brand, with the exception of like cars. And, I don't remember seeing commercials for something that was uber luxurious. It was typically print ad. And then of course the death of print came. So right now, everything I think is online. And, for our older consumers, honestly, we've had relationships with them. And so to continue those relationships, it's about, hey, did we have a huge wedding where our client spent $600,000 with us in decor? Are we going to send them an anniversary gift? Yes, of course we are. We're going to maintain those relationships. Are we going to send them flowers when they have their first kid? Absolutely. It's about getting in their face in a sophisticated way and letting them know, like, hey, we remember you, you're important to us. And I think that, and this, that boils down again to our sales team too, about maintaining that relationship, because I can drive people in the door through pop-ups and social media and creative partnerships and stuff like that. But our sales team at the end of the day, and they always do, have to maintain that special relationship with their clients. And they've been phenomenal at that, especially now during COVID, because we are dealing with a lot of people that have postponed celebrations. And, that also speaks to larger venues like the Art Institute and the MCA. Those are clients too. I mean, those are obviously venues, but they hire us for their galas and things like that. So maintaining those relationships, sending cards, or if we have a new flower special, whatever it is, being thoughtful is, I think, the best way to maintain your relationships, especially when you're dealing with clients on such a personal level.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big strategy that, always comes up that I think a lot of people forget is that it's exponentially cheaper to grow a client that exists than to find a new one. And a lot of times what happens with, whether it's a startup or a growing company, or it doesn't matter really the size, it's that when you retain that relationship, the lifetime value becomes that much stronger. But beyond that, the referral becomes substantially more effective, right? A 20-year client at a $50,000 event, which, for your guys, is probably not a very large event, will still make $1 million, but everybody else that they know is substantially greater. Yet the work that it will entail to get you a $300,000 event, but it takes forever and the client never comes back, is of much less value, even though the one event is greater. So I'm a big believer in that, as well as just maintaining strong connections. And even if the client, or in your guys' case, generally like the customer or the client is maybe a little bit smaller, like you said earlier, continuing to build those relationships and constantly growing them and working with them to ensure that they're as happy as they can be for the long term. It's all customer support at that point, customer relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, our CEO, Rishi Patel, always says this, that, service is luxury, and we do provide a luxury service. So that our customer service, the way we treat our clients, is just as important as the end result of whether it is a bride and groom walking into the reception and they're blown away by the decor. That's something that is very personal to us and special, but the process of doing that, we want to make sure that it's enjoyable, that they are having a good time. We take the work off their shoulders. It's something that, it's the same kind of thing. I guess the best way I can compare it to, when you walk into a restaurant, you can walk into a fast food store, you get your food, it's fine, it's great. You can walk into a fine dining restaurant, the service is going to be impeccable. And that's kind of how we view ourselves. We want to make sure that our clients and anyone who attends any of our events experiences that level of service, because it comes back to us twofold.
I completely agree. I mean, if you have a great meal and really crappy service, you're probably not going to come back.
Yeah.
But if you have, even a decent meal, but you have just exceptional service, you'll probably come back, right? Because you know the people and you appreciate what they're doing for you. So I completely agree there. Yeah. I want to hop into, helping others grow, right? That's kind of the third segment of what we generally chat about. And in that case, I want to talk about, what can individuals who are either entrepreneurs, they're marketers, depending, it doesn't really matter so much their role, but they want to grow their business. I know you mentioned social media and a couple of other things, but if you were to name just a couple of action items that they can really retain and continue focusing on to grow their client base, their customer base, their business, their sales, what would they be?
Strategic partnerships are really big. If someone's just starting out in a business, whatever that industry, and they're reaching out to an enormous mammoth of a company for a strategic partnership, they're probably going to get a no. But if you can find someone that's just a little bit above where you're at as a company, slowly taking those steps to find the right partners to help you grow. Because once you're able to tap into somebody else's market, you can cross promote, and that will help you build. I think, to me, that's the most important step. And the other thing too, on top of that, is having a really strong brand. You need to make sure that your brand voice is really definable. You need to make sure that your collateral, your logo, all that stuff is really, really polished and cohesive. If you're starting out and you're not really sure, like, oh, what are your brand colors? What are you going to post in your email blasts? Like, what are you going to post online? What does your website look? Everything needs to be cohesive and polished. And you can do that on a minimal budget. It's just a matter of keeping things consistent. And that's all the more important when you are approaching people for strategic partnerships. If you come off a little sloppy, people aren't going to be as excited to join in on your venture with you. So I think having a strong brand, strategic partnerships, presence on social media, it takes time to keep at it. And don't ever stop hunting press. Press always helps, in my opinion. It's tough to get, but never give up. In my experience with press, obviously we get printed a lot in magazines and online, and we've had TV spots and things like that. But that does really, really help a ton. And that kind of goes hand in hand with finding a good strategic partner, because sometimes they have the press connection and they'll pitch it, and then you benefit off of that. So, there's all these little things when you put it together can help you grow your business. You just have to be really thoughtful about the way you do it. And, if it's going to take you a little bit longer to present a polished brand, then do it, because it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And, HMR Designs, I know the website is very clean and easy to use. And I'm sure that whether it's you or your team, played a big part in that.
We did, yeah, we completely redesigned it. So
that's great.
Yeah, before, when I joined, the website looked completely different. It was dated. It needed a refresh. And, our CEO was a big, proponent in that. And we worked with an amazing company who did the web redesign. And, I rewrote all the copy on the website, pulled strategic pictures to make it captivating. And I mean, it's really important. If you're selling a luxury brand, then you yourself need to be polished, because no one's going to believe what you're selling if your company isn't together.
Completely agree. We won't name the company that designed the brand for the sake of competitors. No, I'm kidding. Unfortunately, it wasn't Visualfizz this time around. But no, the website does look really great. The language is really great. And I think that's a big proponent too, is really understanding who you are. And I'm sure that before you guys worked on building the website, and we can get to this as well, you probably had either a formal brand guide or a very strong understanding of who your brand is and who you want to resonate to, with your content and the imagery and everything that people see.
Yeah. I mean, when I came on board, we didn't have brand guidelines or a book. So it was fortunate that I came on at the right time, where our CEO was spearheading this. We want to do a redesign. Great. We brought in a wonderful partner to help us do that. And once we kind of sifted through the look that we wanted, the revamped logo, our colors, our fonts, brand identity pieces, then I put together a brand guideline and a brand book. So people in our company had a better understanding, a cohesive understanding of what our brand should look like at all times. And maintaining that is very important.
It is. Yeah. I mean, and that's a good point. I think that last sentence is really important. The way we describe it is you can always build a really, really nice house in the middle of like Texas or Alaska. But if you don't have the routes to get to that home, and it starts with many, many moving pieces, then you just have a house with with nothing there. And then, beyond that, it's what's in the house too, because you could build a great frame and on the outside it looks good. But if you're not functioning inside through the brand guides, through your social media, through everything internal, then you don't have, and for the sake of this, this analogy, you don't have windows and doors and artwork and lights and things that make up the interior of the house. So there's a lot of moving parts, because you have the interior and the exterior, being the roads and the driveway and the door to get in. I always love using that analogy when it comes to building brands or websites, because it's very similar, building a website versus building a house. People don't really realize how similar the theory around both are, but they're very close. In any case, I could I could talk about that all day. I'd love to also learn more about some of the strategy that you've utilized in social media. Obviously, you mentioned Instagram, and this has been a big proponent to your guys' growth and success and ongoing strategy. I think one thing that will help a lot is people are sometimes a little bit intimidated by how much effort it does take for social media, right? Imagery, video, content, like it's a full-time job. And if you're not let's call it a successful brand or a brand that has the budget, you could spend all day posting. I mean, what do you guys do to, ensure that you're providing that quality, growing, but you're not taking 40 hours of your week out to post on social?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping once we kind of get over the COVID hump, we'll be back on track and be able to hire more people in the marketing department, where I could have someone doing social media 100% of the time, because it really is a full-time job. But for us, it was kind of at first when I joined a little trial and error, seeing what kind of imagery would resonate with our audience. And surprise, surprise, it's the ones that are very full and full of saturation and contrast. And when there's a lot of things going on, that's what people like to see. So that is something that, identifying the type of content that you want was the first step. Luckily for us, we do have an incredible photo archive. I'm talking years and years and years of pictures, core pictures from events. So that is part of the biggest challenge for social media, is content. And fortunately, we have just an incredible catalog of photos to choose from. So there's not a need just yet for us to create 100% original content, because we are in a very fortunate boat. Others are not. But so that has helped a lot, because currently right now I am doing the social media. So that means I do have to figure out, what am I going to post every day or every other day? So that's one step. Another too is kind of finding when is the right time to post and how often. And again, I think it changes from industry to industry. For us, I have found that because a lot of people who do follow us are in the event industry or in the floral industry, or simply just like to look at pretty things, I found specific days and times where pictures take off. And that's really it. I mean, it's the content, the timing, and finding a voice. And we've defined our voice. If someone was so inclined to scroll back on the HMR Designs Instagram 3 years, the voice wasn't, it kind of changed every now and then, because I think they had different people. But now if you were to look at an Instagram post today and then look at our website, it sounds like the same person's writing it, because it's me, surprise. But that was something that was really important, is securing that brand voice, and then Absolutely. Going from there and figuring out when and what you want to post.
Awesome. I have another question. I actually haven't asked this one as frequently as I'd like to, but I think the timing makes sense. So it's it's November in 2020. 2021 is just around the corner. This is not another COVID question, but it probably does pertain to it a little bit. So budgets are rolling around, and I think a lot of people, whether similarly, our viewers are marketing directors, some of them are founders, some of them are whatever role in that space. How do you guys go about planning your budgets for 2021? What does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not privy to exactly what all the other departments are up to. For me right now, because this year has really just kind of turned us on our head, we've had to be conservative with our budgets. I'm honestly, everything that I wanted to do as far as paid advertisements or hiring, an outside company to help with our SEO, things like that, I have postponed everything until January 2021, because we don't know. Our 2021 looks packed and it looks amazing. But with COVID, you cannot predict what's going to happen next year. I mean, I am expecting that end of summer, fall, and winter weddings will be back on track. I do think corporate is going to take a lot longer, and we do corporate events because corporations aren't going to risk much when it comes to that. So we feel pretty safe in saying, let's hold off 2 years at least when it comes to any of the revenue we would expect from a corporate event. Weddings, we feel a little bit more secure. So I do think right now, I frankly, I don't have a secure budget. I don't have a hard number yet for next year. I think we are, talking every other week, all the department heads, and trying to figure out, all right, what are we dedicating to this department and this department? Right now it's looking so good, but like I said, I don't want to say a hard and fast number is set, because it isn't.
Sure.
And it can change. And I think that companies probably are in the same boat where they're expecting X, Y, and Z, budget, but be prepared for it to change. Because if we can take anything away from 2020, change is a constant. So
yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great answer. And I think 2020 has become a year of kind of self-realization for a lot of companies that thought that they are doing great and don't need reserves and can pay out massive bonuses and things like that. But, that's kind of the scary thing, is how quickly, and I'm pivoting a little bit, but I'll come back to it, but how quickly companies were to lay off their staff, get rid of any assets. I remember when COVID hit, and 2 weeks in, the unemployment rate was historically the highest it's been ever. And that is really daunting and scary. And I think taking a very conservative approach like you guys are doing, and having a budget that is very fluid and flexible and changing around. And that's something we've done too, is just thinking through, if we're growing, we invest more. If we're waiting, we're waiting. And if we're, obviously losing any money, we figure it out as well.
Yeah.
And I hope that larger companies, particularly ones that are hiring dozens, hundreds, or thousands of people, not just startups, they're thinking through this as well. It's like, all right, we maybe don't take as high of profits, and we keep 5% of our profit, 10, 20% of our profit, and put it in reserves in case something like this happens. So I like that approach as well.
Yeah,
I know. We would hope, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. So just to let everyone know, we have 5 minutes. So if you have questions, please do. I see a couple already here for internally, so that's good. If you guys have any other questions, please do send them over to the Visualfizz account or myself privately, and I'll ask them. But yeah, I mean, really, I like your question or your answer, because there's investments that you want to make, right? You mentioned some of the marketing things. Are you, and this is just an interesting point for me to understand, are you generally as a marketing director, and this goes out probably to the struggles of other directors, trying to push and pull for different parts of the funding that will go to your department each year? And how do you go about that part?
I mean, you know, HMR, it's a big company, but it's a small one at the same time. We're still a boutique company. You know, over 100 people work there, but I report directly to our CEO, and he is, you know, I can't speak bad about him. He's wonderful. I've been pretty lucky with bosses in the past, and he, you know, I have his ear, and he really respects me and my vision. And so when it comes to budget, I'm always trying to pull some extra dollars for advertisements, whether it's a Google ad or something on social media. But especially now, because we've got Maison HMR, which is our floral delivery company, our e-com company. And yeah, I mean, he's pretty good when I'm like, hey, can I pull a little bit from here or there? You know, he understands the value of marketing and how important it is to advertise. I mean, if you can't, you're not going to reach everybody you want to reach, even if you have a great following on Instagram or you have an amazing email list. There's never enough. The pool can never be big enough. So I'm always asking for advertising dollars. That's the biggest thing for us is really just advertising dollars right now. Long term, I want more money for the department so we can expand it and have more people working there, because we aren't just one brand. We're HMR Designs, but we're Maison HMR. We were in the process of launching an experiential branch, because prior to COVID, a lot of money was going into experiential events. That got put on pause because experiential events really are kind of snoozing right now. I'm sure they'll come back at some point, but yeah, there's a lot. I mean, of course, you know, because we are a tight-knit company, I am aware of what's going on in the other departments. So, you know who needs what and when. And I think for me, I know hopefully when the right time is to ask for those extra dollars. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you that as a marketing agency, there's never enough marketing dollars to go around. Never
enough. There's never.
Whenever you have a client and they have as many marketing dollars as you have needs, then everybody's happy.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of probably any department, right? I'm sure the development of departments are always like, we need more developers.
Of course, yeah.
No one's like, we have too much. We have too much money.
No one's ever like, please stop giving us money. We don't need it. Yeah.
Especially when you can prove the return on investment. That's the big thing. You know, if you can easily define that you are making $2 for every dollar, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Sometimes it's not so easy, you know, like for social media, we understand that it's not a one-to-one, like you've got to put the effort into it, you know, for organic social rather. And the return might happen after, like you said, like 3 years of a follower, and they finally are ready for that wedding. But it took you 3 years of posting, but now they're ready. And that return is now, you know, 5-fold, 10-fold of your time, right? Because it came back to the to your service. Cool. That's really exciting. I have asked a lot of questions, so I'm going to let the audience ask a couple. I have a couple here in my private chat here. So my first one here is, how important is a, in quotes, personal brand for the individuals working for/with luxury brands? Do you have any advice on how to build up a personal brand?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because you know, with HMR Designs, we have a large following on Instagram, but so does our CEO. I mean, he has, I think, 25K, and he's certainly brought in a lot of clientele through that. So I do think there is absolutely, there's value in a personal brand when you're working, you know, at a larger company. It just depends, I think, on the person and how comfortable you are. Some people are not comfortable with self-promotion and, you know, putting yourself out there every day and really defining your persona as this person who works for whatever company it is. But if you are one of those people that hey, you want to self-promote and you feel comfortable doing that, then 100% I would advise to go ahead and do that, because it can only help the business. But that in mind, you have to be strategic and careful about what you are posting on your own Instagram and your Facebook and your Twitter. If you are going to represent your company, you have to be really thoughtful about it. That said, to grow it, I think that, you know, I mean, I can give you the basic rundown, but, you know, finding the right imagery, hashtagging, time of day, tagging people. That's a big thing. You know, if you're working with, like I said, like a restaurant group, tagging the restaurant group, the restaurant location, give people the opportunity, make it easy for them to share. And that's just not in a post, but in stories too. The more people and accounts you can tap into with every post and story, the more likely it is that it will be shared. And when it's shared, you're exposed to more people. I would also say too, you know, keep your content consistent. If you are going to use, again, your personal brand to elevate your companies, you can certainly get into your own personal life, but maintain your voice. You know, don't post something completely off brand. And, you know, if you're like me and like, let's say I'm using my personal account to promote HMR designs, I'm not going to take a picture of a competitor's flower arrangement that I love. Like, you have to just be kind of smart about it. But I think the same strategies that I would give to a company, I would give to a personal brand as well. Just be extra careful when you're doing that, because you are representing the company.
Absolutely. And that is something that I will be doing as we get the updates and the video of this event, is I will be tagging Elise and HMR Designs and Visualfizz. And if anyone else wants to be tagged, you're more than welcome to be tagged. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing that. And I do agree, that's really important, is to bring people into the conversation and let them know, hey, we had something that was important here, we chatted, you know, or if you're doing a partnership like we, you know, speaking about 20-30 minutes ago with some of these partners and strategic partners, keeping them involved and making sure that it is a kind of a dual relationship. What you give is what you get. So the more that you can create that communication back and forth, because their followers are very different than yours and the other way around. And everybody really wins from that. So I totally agree there. Now we have another question. Building long-term relationships, and this I guess that was a really great segue. Building long-term relationships with customers is key in many industries. What's your favorite way to really, in quotes, wow customers now, so that they stay lifetime customers for the long term?
I think it's realizing personal, you know, anniversaries and birthdays. And it's something that you wouldn't, you know, if you go to a restaurant or if you're shopping at a high-end boutique or a brand or whatever, they're not going to send you one of their products on a special day for you. What we are fortunately able to do as a floral design company, among many other things, is we're able to recognize significant days for our clients, birth of children, birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. And also too, our partners and our vendors, our venues that we work with, if, you know, they're launching a new product or if they've got a new service, we're able to send them something really beautiful, which is a flower arrangement. And who doesn't like flowers? So to be able to really give them an extension of something that is our brand while acknowledging something personal that you probably wouldn't get through any other type of industry or brand that you frequent is, I think, really unique to us, and something that I think, again, you know, our salespeople are incredible at doing. And like I said, that always comes back to us when, you know, maybe someone wants to have an extravagant birthday party, they call us, and that happens a lot. Yeah. So we have a lot of repeat customers, and it's really special to have that relationship.
That's a great answer. And that's something that's come up in the past when we did speak about luxury, because one of the major proponents of like being successful in the luxury space is going outside of the standards. You know, you walk into a hotel, we've used this even a couple times, like you walk into a hotel and you get good service, and then you get your room and it's fine, and you leave and you're like, that was good, right? 4.5 out of 5, 4 out of 5. But if you go to this hotel and you get a glass of champagne, which ultimately costs them 50 cents, and you go to the room and there's a couple of chocolates, like something nice, a couple truffles, or like, a bottle of champagne, or just something a little extra, which also costs nothing in comparison to a luxury hotel. I mean, fractional amounts of dollars. Your experience is exponentially better. And so that utilization of like those items is so crucial. And in your case, the flowers, which, that's obviously a very different thing. I'm not talking about the cost of them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, a dozen roses in a really nice case versus a very beautiful or ornate wedding is a small price to pay as a business to receive not only a very expensive event as a return, but also a client who's going to speak fondly of you guys and provide referrals and be happy, even if they never do another event with you just for the sake of them not needing an event. You'll always have a happy person who will speak on your behalf and say, these flowers, I got them from HMR, they were awesome, or post on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that's really important to us. And, I always don't personally deal with the clients, when it comes to weddings and things like that, face to face by any means, but our salespeople really, really do care a lot about the clients they work with, and they maintain a wonderful relationship with them. So again, that's something that's really, really important to us.
I mean, it's so crucial. And at Visualfizz, we are, I think it's just me, honestly, but the phrase that I really like, or the acronym is IIR, which is investment in relationship. So a lot of times when I talk with, prospective clients, I say there's ROI, there's IIR. And the big differentiator when we like to work with clients is like, we'll be honest, there's a lot of really great agencies out there, a lot, because there's a lot of talented people. And so the differentiation may not be that we're the best, because there's so many good ones, right? And I feel very confident that we are a very good agency. But I think the big differentiator that I like to talk to clients about, because I am very transparent, is the investment in the relationship, getting to know our customers, being very personable, transparent, honest, quick, all those feedback loops. I think that is a big differentiator, which a lot of agencies sometimes just can't provide. They're too busy, they're too big, they're too small, and I think just being able to invest in relationships like you guys are, is probably why you've grown to the size that you have in the number of years that you have. So I'm really excited to hear that that same kind of concept resonates.
Oh yeah, it's very, very important to us. I mean, that's, like I said, we've been around for 40 years, and some of those people that were buying flowers from our founder are still around today, and we're doing their florals in their home on a weekly basis. So it's really nice to see, the investment, not just the return on investment, but the actual relationship grow and build throughout the years.
Absolutely. So let's do one more question. This will be kind of an interesting one, but how do you feel the luxury industry, not just because of COVID, but in general, let's speak generally here. What do you think the future of luxury is for individuals and for businesses? Like, what does that look like?
You mean like from a company?
From a consumer needs standpoint, like what are consumers that are high net worth, ultra high net worth, like what are they looking for now? And then how are businesses changing their models to fit their expectations and needs?
I think people are looking for more experiences than just tangible items. I think people want to invest more money, COVID, but people want to invest more money on luxury travel than on like a luxury purse. And that's not to say like, the designer industry is going anywhere by any means. I do think people are going to, especially after COVID, want to invest in things that will bring them places. And maybe that is, a luxury travel destination, or an incredibly expensive meal, or an incredibly expensive wedding. People want to experience life again. And I think having this year of kind of being stuck at home and not being able to do the things that you love to do with other people is going to only drive home the importance of how much more experiences have value than tangible items. You know, people are always going to buy luxury clothing and luxury cars, but I think, you know, when it came down to it, people are really going to start investing more in things that will bring them memories than just, you know, a beautiful pair of shoes, or, you know, whatever it is. I think people want to kind of really be able to spend money on things that they can look back on fondly and not just use for a couple years and do away with it. I mean, that's my 2 cents. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Like everything's a little unpredictable, but I think experiences is going to be where things start trending once people are able to go back to normal, however long that takes.
I think so too. And I've had a lot of interviews over the past couple of months with leaders in the luxury space, because I was interested in this, and this is something that Visualfizz and our team is kind of working in as a little side project, if you will. And the interesting thing is that with the luxury space, everybody whom I spoken with, whether they are in like the luxury hotel space, they are consultants in luxury, they're like yourself, who's director of marketing in a company that focuses on luxury events or came from luxury media. All of the responses, though you're right, you know, there's always going to be somebody that buys the bag and the shoes and the car and the house. But that, especially in that middle range, not the ultra high net worth, but the high net worth individuals that can afford to take it up a notch, they probably will be taking their family on a really nice vacation after this because they need it. Or they might be purchasing a vacation house, you know, so that they can start driving to the destination, or maybe a boat, so they can spend that time with the close group of people. So even though there are those tangibles that you kind of talked about will likely be shareable tangibles. And that's the way I kind of potentially see it, is like people want boats and, you know, houses and nice things, but they might be doing these intentionally so they could share them with their close groups of people. Because I think that's also something that came out of this, is you've kind of refined your group of people that you're with. And we'll probably see that not everybody's going to jump at the first moment that the vaccine comes out, you know, hopefully. Because then, you know, then COVID again. But the people will start to slowly move out of that, like, let's call it the central group that they've been with, and start to see their friends again. And I agree. I think that's what the future kind of holds for us for at least the next few years. Yeah.
I mean, if anything, if COVID's taught us is just to really value relationships and things we took for granted before, not realizing like, oh, this is not something we'll always be able to do. I think it's really highlighted that. And, you know, it's been a crazy year, but if you can find a silver lining, I guess it's kind of not taking life and relationships for granted, and being able, hopefully in the next year or so, to be able to kind of get back to normal and experience things with people.
I agree. I didn't know how much I liked ice cream and Oreos until COVID happened. So, you know, when I'm running around everywhere, you know, I'm good. And then I realize I'm stuck at home all day and I want ice cream and Oreos. That being said, I really appreciate the time that, I don't know how I got into that, but that's what came up. I was like, I've had more Oreos during COVID than I've had in my entire life.
I mean, there's not much else to look forward to in, you know, isolation here. I mean, dinner is all I talk about every day. It's the one thing I look forward to. I'm like, what are we having for dinner tonight? What's the plan? You know, it's the one exciting.
Yeah, dinner and cocktails, right? It's
exactly, yeah, a lot of cocktails.
It's funny. It's so funny. And that segment wasn't brought to you by any particular brand. It would be nice if they were. But at least it was awesome getting to know you and chatting through everything that we chatted about. You know, we jam-packed an hour of conversation in here, all about luxury, the future of it, how to grow social media, just so much good information. For anybody who is listening for the future or now, you know, obviously continue watching the growth series, as we've had a few already. We're going to continue having them throughout the year, probably taking a short break during the holidays and New Year's. But if you know anybody or have anybody that you think is going to be great for this, feel free, Elise or anybody else, to recommend them. And we really appreciate your time here. And we'll be sending out basically links to this video, transcripts, all that good stuff within the next couple of weeks, and they'll be online. But beyond that, you know, once again, really appreciate it. And, you know, obviously we'll continue to be in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope I did okay.
You did great. I know you were nervous at first, but this was awesome. And I had fun personally. So thanks so much, and have a happy, great weekend coming up.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good holiday.
Yes. Thank you.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.